the initial title that had been given to me on the terms of reference. I also work with the National Agricultural Research Organization, not Makerere. I only work at Makerere part-time. Now, in this presentation and how we are trying to industrialize the banana industry, since banana is a serious business in Uganda, and at times we are called a banana republic. Then I will proceed to discuss the increasing demand for soils information, for soils and land information in Uganda, but this is likely to be applicable to all the countries in the region. And then I will make some very quick conclusions. Now, our soil information in Uganda is based on the surveys that were conducted between the 1950s and 60s, and it's at a scale of 1 to 250,000. At that time, they were not using the conventional classification that we know. They were naming soils based on the places. And since then, we've been making an attempt to cross-check that reconnaissance and try to bring it up to date with FAO and USDA. But we have not moved fast in that direction. We have very little information at a scale of 1 to 50,000 or lower. That is the overall mapping system or grid for the country based on 17 sheets. And so far, we have only been able to work on about 4 sheets. But even then, we haven't managed to update them to the required scale. We only continue to work on a good scale of 1 to 50 or lower on demand. For example, if somebody is investing in this area and requests a survey, then we update and carry out the survey. So you can see that this is one of our priority areas, making sure that we update and carry out and get a very good database on our soils resources. Now, Uganda is the second world producer, producing about 10 million metric tons per year of bananas. And this accounts for approximately 20% of the global production. We are also leading consumers of bananas. We basically eat what we produce. We are not like the other people who export 90. We try to eat all of it. So our per capita consumption is the highest in the world at about 660 kilograms of bananas. Now, the cooking bananas are approximated at 29%, close to 30% of the world production, while we are very low on the dessert at about 1%. Now, most of these bananas are produced on small-scale plots. We have about 2.7 million plots or banana fields, averaging about 0.24 of a hectare, close to 50%. So that is how serious we are with the bananas. Now, specifically on the soils information and banana production, the bananas are surface feeders because they basically grow. They have a profuse rooting system on the surface, and they love NPK, especially potassium. However, we have had problems. Between 1970 and 1990, there was these highland green cooking bananas, which we call matoke, rapidly declined in the traditional area in central Uganda. And at the same period, there was an increase in the southwest. We are very concerned in that the cooking bananas, as I have said, the production has gone to the west. We are worried that it might undergo the same cycle as it did in central Uganda and reduce in terms of yields. A wide range of soils information is required to support this sector, ranging from site-specific fertilizer recommendation, water balance, and other cropping systems requirements, because bananas are normally intercropped with a wide range of crops. To change this crop into an industrial crop because of the extensive coverage in the country. Now, the main objective of this initiative on banana industrialization is to kickstart a pilot industry on banana value addition through a state-of-the-art industrial platform. We have already established a state-of-the-art small industry in western Uganda, where we currently have the highest production, and a number of activities are already taking place. It is both a research center and a pilot industry. A number of novel products are already being generated from this factory. We have 3 generic matoke or banana flours. We have what we call raw instant and extruded forms of matoke. Those of you who know our popular way of preparing matoke, it is peeled and prepared in a mash form. But that creates a lot of problems in that these bananas are carried from the rural area, brought into urban area, and they generate a lot of garbage, which is creating a lot of problems in the cities. And there is also a lot of post-harvest loss during transportation and during the dry season when a lot of bananas dry in the field. So second generation products with the aim that the banana flour can substitute some of the products that we are importing, like wheat flour. We are already carrying out a substitution where, in some cases, when you are making bread, instead of using wheat as the main material, we are substituting now up to about 20 to 30% with banana flour, and the bread is quite good, and acceptability is very high so far on the local market and in some few places where it has been exported. In related demand of land resources information, and as I said, most probably this is applicable all over the region. Now, when I start with the national, regional, and global frameworks and conventions, our economy is based on agriculture. Forest cover, a major source of biomass and biodiversity, is declining at a rate of 55,000 hectares per annum, and that is quite considerable. Programs are basically requiring soils or land resources information because of the nature of our economy. As I said, at the national level, there are various strategies and action plans that address sustainable management of natural resources, biodiversity conservation, and sustainable use of different resources, forests, and others. We also have desertification and climate change mitigation, which is also calling on different variants of information. Then at the regional level, the Environment and Action Plan of NEPAD has a major focus on land degradation, as well as biodiversity conservation, drought and climate change mitigation, and the protection of the fragile ecosystems. That also is calling for a lot of information on land resources. Then we have the Millennium Development Goals, which also require a lot of information. In the paper, I have gone into more details specifying. Now, just to give a very quick overview of the types of information that our land resources database at my institute is getting involved in. This is a very quick assessment of forest degradation in Mount Elgon, just within a period of 5 years, from 1999 to 2004. You can see the changes on Mount Elgon that have taken place, of all that forest cover being reduced to that, and the overall boundary of the forest being reduced to that. That has a lot of consequences on biodiversity loss and other degradation activities, as you know. This climate change. Currently, there is insufficient understanding of the directions. I hadn't put this box there. We recently had a study of these effects of climate change in Uganda, and we have highlighted the areas that are likely to be badly affected. What I want to say here is that most of those areas that are highlighted require a lot of soils and land resources information. That is a priority to us who are in this sector. Additionally, I'm sure you all know that areas that are directly in our field, and we have to generate information so as to be able to adapt and mitigate climate change. One of the areas that is undergoing accelerated land degradation, this corridor, starting all the way from Tanzania, cutting across the country, carries about 80% of the national herd of livestock. This is where we have herdsmen moving in search of pastures, having problems with the farmers because of the similar situation that was described of Sudan yesterday.
3 minutes to conclude, please.
Yes, I will be done within then. This is where we are having a very high demand for information for most of the UN conventions, the UNFCCC, the Convention for Combating Desertification, Biodiversity Loss. We have to generate a lot of information because of the accelerated land degradation that is taking place in this area. Are we using the right language? Are we able to communicate effectively with all this increasing demand on the information on land resources? Normally, the people we are dealing with require very tiny things, 5-10 pages. In Uganda, we call these popular versions, and we have converted most of our environmental laws, policies, and regulations into these simple pocket-friendly versions. We need to use a language that people can understand. Land management extension materials for farmers, pastoralists, these are the areas we have been addressing, but we still have to improve. So what I'm saying here, we need to make ourselves relevant so that we can create impact. There is a lot of demand on us, so we have got to respond positively. I don't know how many of us here in this room are involved in things like environmental impact assessments. In some of the places I have been to, you find these things being done by people who don't know, and yet we are there, simply because we have not marketed ourselves, we have not informed the people of what we are capable of doing. Most of the environmental agencies require inspectors who have got to support them in inspecting some of these places where environmental impacts have been carried out. You find that these things are being done by non-soil scientists, and yet they require our expertise. What are we not doing right? or what are we doing wrong? We really need to come out of our cocoons, talk to the rest of the people so that we provide the required information as demanded in the different forums.